ויגיל כבודי אף בשרי אף בשרי ישכון לבטח.
I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. As we join together today, a community, a family of so many who loved Jenny. She was a light in a darkened world, a light that is gone way too soon. Today, we join together to remember her, to celebrate her, to remember the joy and laughter and love that she brought to so many. And yes, death has taken our beloved Jennifer. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God. Be with them. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in light as in dark, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. Psalm 23.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לו אחזור, בהנות דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינחלני, נפשי שוביב ינחני ומגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי לך בגץ על מוות לא יירא כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, תשען בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. We turn to the words of Psalm 121 as they seek to offer comfort and strength during this difficult time. Esa einai el heharim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yiten lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha, al yad yimanecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmarecha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzetecha uvoecha, me'ata ve'ad olam. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever.
In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave and that there is strength in faith. With Job, then, we say, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a dear one whom we will not forget. For all that was good and enduring and beautiful in Jenny's life, we offered the most profound and deep thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust as we say, Yehi shem Adonai mevorach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. We'll set aside the next few moments in silence and in stillness to feel and hear what is deepest and truest in our hearts, and let that be our prayer. Hiyu l'ratzon imre fi v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of our mouths and the quiet meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, Eternal One, for you are our rock and our Redeemer. As together we say, Amen. Dear friends, thank you all so much for being here. It means so much. I know that there are many of us who may have never attended a Jewish funeral service. Maybe for some of us, this is the first time we've ever set foot in a synagogue. And so I wanted to begin these remarks by explaining that the Hebrew word for funeral is levaya. Levaya is a word that means to accompany or to escort. Today we are here not only to remember Jennifer Berliner, but also to escort and to accompany her loved ones, the people closest to her. It's not what we say to mourners that matters. Indeed, there are times in the presence of friends whose hearts are heavy with loss that it's better for us to not say anything at all, but instead to offer an embrace or a gentle hand on their shoulder or a tissue to dry a tear. This is why a funeral in Hebrew is called a levaya, an accompanying or escorting. Your presence here, friends, this afternoon reminds Jenny's family that although they are suffering, they are not and will never be suffering alone, that you are going to be there for them. Jewish tradition also teaches that a funeral service has two purposes. One is remembering and paying tribute, and the other is weeping. We don't run away from our loss, our tears, and our regret that we lost this spectacular woman far too soon. We hate that she suffered as she did. We wish, with an understandable speck of selfishness perhaps, we wish that she was still here for us and with us, radiating that warm smile, sharing that easy laugh, and blessing all of us with this astonishing positivity that kept her going. When I was talking with Adam a couple of days ago after Jenny had passed, he reflected that Jenny was the best thing that had ever happened to him. And I have no doubt that in her own way, she would have said exactly the same thing about Adam. Their love, their respect for each other, their commitment to each other was not hidden. It was just right there in the open for everyone to see. It was there especially concretely in each and every one of Jenny's social media, Facebook and other posts, I think Instagram maybe too, during one of her too many hospital stays. It was typically a selfie with her head propped up on a pillow in bed and Adam's face coming in at an angle like this, right next to her face. No space, no gap whatsoever. Every one of those photos could have been entitled, "The Husband Says, I'm Not Going Anywhere." Friends, several other attendees are going to share their own reminiscences in just a moment, so I don't want to go on too long. Just give me a chance, please, to make a few additional comments to express some of what came up. In a rather unusual conversation, typically when there is a funeral service, there might be two of us there. If one of us was particularly close to the person who passed, and our cantorial soloist, whose beautiful voice you heard, is also there. But in this particular case, it was unthinkable that any of us should not be here for this service. And I think for the first time in 31 years, I sat with my colleagues together in a group and took notes as we all reminisced about Jenny. That's how much we loved her. So, a few things. Jenny and Adam joined our synagogue somewhere around 2006. Sarah remembered meeting Jennifer for the first time at a women's group called the Sisterhood Retreat. Sarah said it was instantaneously clear that here was a person who radiated light and was very funny. She was somebody that you immediately knew you wanted to get to know better. Rabbi Levy remembered that her first extended interaction with Jennifer was years later, around 2019. There was a particular weekend when synagogues all across America had signed on to a national program called Organ Donor Shabbat. Shabbat means Sabbath. Organ Donor Sabbath. Jennifer was our keynote speaker that evening. And Rabbi Levy remembered helping her to kind of prepare for that talk. It was an utterly open and honest account of what she had been through leading up to that heart transplant and what that process was like. And at the same time, it was joyful and positive and happy, despite, as I said, an unashamed account of how many rough times she went through. All three of us sitting together remembered the group photo that was taken after that service. Jennifer was in the middle. All the other speakers and representatives of the organization were on either side of her, and she led everybody in doing that. Everybody with their hands like that. Over the past month or so, of course, the reality sank in that Jenny had developed such a serious complex of health issues that her remaining time might be quite short. And so she clearly assembled, without ever saying so directly to me, I think Adam sort of had some sense of this when we talked about it, a bucket list of things that she wanted to do to make sure that her final days and weeks were as joyful and meaningful and impactful positively on others as possible. To give you one example, in a conversation, Jenny confided in Rabbi Levy that she, Jenny, loved children. And since she had never had the opportunity to be a mom herself, she asked Rabbi Levy if Rabbi Levy might arrange the opportunity for her, Jenny, to hold a baby. Just hold someone's baby. A member of our temple board, as it turns out, had recently welcomed a new child. And I have to tell you that the picture of Jenny holding that baby, gazing into that baby's eyes with this calm, happy smile on her face, which is, I need to say, a picture that holds a place of honor to this day on Rabbi Levy's cell phone. That is a picture that you can't behold if you knew her without just choking up. I think it's so beautiful, it's impossible not to be moved. Myself, I will always remember Jennifer making the rounds just a few weeks ago at the first in-person Passover Seder, second night Passover Seder, that our community had had in 3 years because of COVID. It was always on Zoom or on YouTube. We finally got together in person. I went over to Jenny that night and I asked her how she was feeling, and she kind of leaned into me and said, "Rabbi, I have a lot going on, but I'm so glad to be here." Of course, Jenny took selfies with me and with everybody else that she knew at that Seder that she hadn't seen in a long time. Only later did it occur to me that these photos as well were a way of checking off items on that bucket list by literally documenting all the love and friendship that had become so important to her in this community. Because it's true that Jenny loved this temple, she loved the community, she loved and admired Judaism and Judaism. Because of her own illness and also because of the pandemic, were really frustrating for her. But what I remember most about Jenny was her love and her courage and her incredible strength. She and I had many, many conversations in my study in the months leading up to her heart transplant. She was scared back then. Who wouldn't be scared facing a heart transplant? But she wanted to live, and she did. There was this great American rabbi named Jacob Philip Rudin, and his most famous among many beautiful quotes is probably this one. He said, "When we die and people weep for us and grieve, let it be because we touched their lives with beauty and simplicity. Let it not be said of us that life was good to us, but rather let it be said that we were good to life." Jennifer Berliner was good to life in ways and to a degree that I had never encountered before getting to know her. And in that spirit, I want to close these words and then invite some other folks up with a poem written by the late Rabbi Harold Schulweis. It is entitled Mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G. What sent me searching for it on the internet today, because I could only remember a few bits and pieces, was that the few bits and pieces I could remember seemed to me so reflective of the way that Jennifer Berliner kept touching our lives and blessing us right down to her very last days. So here's an excerpt from the poem to close. The last word has not been spoken. The last sentence has not been writ. The final verdict is not in. It's never too late to change my mind, my direction, to say no to the past and yes to the future, to offer remorse, to ask and give forgiveness. It is never too late to start all over again, to feel again, to love again, to hope again. It is never too late to overcome despair, to turn sorrow into resolve and pain into purpose. In sickness and in dying, it is never too late. Living, I teach. Dying, I teach. How to face pain and fear. Others observe me. Children, adults, students of life and death learn from my bearing, my posture, my philosophy. It is never too late. Some word of mine, some touch, some caress may play a role beyond the last movement of my head and hand. Write it on my epitaph, that my loved ones be consoled. It is never too late. So I'm honored to invite up here, one at a time, Adam and Sister Mara, and friends Angie and then Mary.
Check, check. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I spent a couple days writing this, so I'm just going to read this off so I don't fall apart here. Miss Jennifer St. John Berliner Vecchio, born 1676, passed on 5/23/22, Eddie and Drew, and held a special place with Jackson and Xavier and Kai and Olivia, Des, and Adrian. Jenny was born a Gemini and a twin to her sister Mara. She was the daughter of Jan and Bob and sister to Allison and stepdaughter to Barbara and brother Jacob. She was the beloved of a large tribe who will miss her for eternity. For many who knew her, the story of Jenny's life is most defined by the incredible medical challenges she endured and the courage she showed in battling them. And to be sure, this part of her story is truly remarkable. She endured more diversity than most of us will ever conceive. The full history of Jenny's health challenges include more surgeries, hospitalizations, and outpatient procedures than I could possibly recount. Without exaggeration, Jenny easily spent a full year of her life in the hospital. For those unfamiliar, the short story of Jenny's health challenges included a triple-decker cancer sandwich, she had cancer 3 times, and nearly 10 years of treatment for congestive heart failure. Jenny had bone cancer at the age of 15, and after having surgery to remove a mass the size of a golf ball from her chest, received radiation and high doses of a chemo drug called adriamycin, now known as the Red Devil. Though it cured her cancer at the time, the adriamycin caused degenerative cardiotoxicity, which over the years incrementally and irreparably damaged her heart. It was roughly a decade later, while in her mid-20s, that she was faced with the fact that she was already showing signs of heart failure and that she would have significant medical battles ahead of her. For the next decade, Jenny dealt with ever more significant health issues until, at the end of 2015, her heart failure reached a pinnacle and she was listed as a candidate for heart transplantation. She had a relatively short 4-month waiting period before getting her new heart in 2016. Barely a year later, still healing, Jenny was diagnosed with breast cancer for a second time. This breast cancer resulted in a double mastectomy. The cancer trifecta was then completed in early 2021 when she was diagnosed with lung cancer, her 3rd cancer. To address lung cancer, Jenny underwent a thoracotomy to remove 1 lobe of her right lung and a 4-month course of chemotherapy. Over the last year, Jenny has been in a continuous battle to recover from these treatments, but ultimately the challenge proved too much. She passed away on May 23rd from acute heart failure caused by transplant rejection. Jenny was truly a cancer warrior. Warrior she was, and yet there was so much more to her. As a high school student, Jenny spent much of her free time volunteering at the Holocaust Center in Dallas. Her work there was impactful, and she was formally recognized and awarded for her services. Though from a Christian background, Jenny found Judaism alluring and had always described her experiences at the Holocaust Center as food for the soul. Jenny graduated high school in '94 and moved on to college, leaving the Holocaust Center behind. Though she had moved on, both Judaism and volunteering remained important themes with her for the rest of her life. She would continue to take on numerous volunteer opportunities and eventually walk the path of formally converting to Judaism. As a volunteer, beyond serving the Holocaust Center, Jenny had a variety of other experiences. To name a few, she was a tour guide at the capital of Texas. She volunteered to help a couple of friends get a new restaurant off the ground. She volunteered in a soup kitchen that fed the homeless while she was spending time with her family in Rochester. She did recordings of book readings for the blind. She volunteered at the Assistance League of Austin. She spent significant time as a CASA, or court-appointed special advocate. This was a really difficult role and one I was so proud of her for taking on. After high school, Jenny spent a year in community college before moving to UT Austin in 1995. She graduated in 1999 with her bachelor's degree in social work and immediately began working. 2 years later, after finding time to marry, me, and while working full-time, she earned a master's degree in social work, her LMSW, and then went on to earn her clinical certificate as a therapist, as an LCSW. Dubbed a people pleaser by her mom and her sister, Jenny was a naturally caring and giving person. Her array of work and volunteer experiences centered around the helping of others. Her professional career took her from helping those with mental and intellectual disabilities to hospital social work, to helping elderly in hospice, to advocating for victims of domestic violence, and to doing child and adolescent therapy. Though many of the roles she took on were difficult, stressful, and occasionally dangerous, yes, she had clients in a crack house. She always seemed to thrive in the fact that her actions were helping people, and she took great satisfaction in her work. She was a driven, contented, people-oriented professional. Ultimately, though, the stresses of her career, however important to her, when combined with the difficulties of maintaining her health, proved to be too much to manage, and she was forced to stop working at the age of 36. At that point in her life, Jenny's job became being a full-time patient. There is a common sentiment that first impressions are really important when meeting new people. Jenny was a master of the first impression. She was a complete and total extrovert and was intensely curious about other people. Jenny would start conversations with people in line at the grocery store and walk away with their life story and a phone number. She made those kinds of first impressions. In September of '95, after finishing a handball tournament in New Orleans, I celebrated my first victory by rushing unshowered out the door of the gym and spending 8 hours driving a van full of hungover teammates back to Austin. Tired, in one of my notoriously friendly moods, I walked into my room at Jester wearing a bandana, a dirty short-sleeve shirt, gym shorts, and carrying a huge hockey conversation with my roommate was the chatty girl who'd moved in next door. Great. Quite friendly, she introduced herself and tried to make some small talk. I noticed as she was talking that her eyes got really big, like she was almost daring me not to respond. I think beyond hello, I may have said 2 words to her and otherwise did my typical uncomfortable grunting. I basically fled, leaving to take a shower, concluding our first in-depth conversation by locking the door while muttering something unintelligible to myself. Apparently, I made such a good first impression on my future work that she went back to her room and anxiously called her mother to tell her about the long-haired, tattooed, handball-playing psycho from New York living next door. Her mom, classically, advised her to keep her door shut, honey, and everything will be fine. Though I didn't exactly make a good first impression on her, Jenny managed to make a very good first impression on me, demonstrating the vibrance and curiosity that so highlighted her personality. Luckily for me, Jenny did not take her mom seriously about keeping her door locked. She did keep pepper spray handy, though. By the time I met Jenny at the age of 19, she was already a cancer survivor and familiar with the hell of adolescent chemotherapy and radiation. She had felt the pain of loss, seeing friends die while undergoing treatment. Naturally, such experiences had left Jenny with a perspective and maturity well beyond that of your typical college-age kid. Jenny had already found her calling and had aggressive, concrete goals about her education and what her career path would look like. When most kids were realizing they would not be playing center field for the Mets, she was already latched on. After our initial interaction, where I may have intimidated my bride-to-be, I made a better second impression, and we were soon fast friends. Jenny was funny and smart and curious and funny. She had a way of getting you to drop your defenses when you talked to her. She had this thing she did with her eyes where they would get super big when she was especially engaged. She could just suck you into conversation. She was mature beyond her years and had incredible insight into what made people tick. While driven, organized, and goal-oriented, she was unfailingly kind, empathetic, and giving. She was the most got-it-together person I've ever met. For this punk kid from New York City, who had never really adjusted to life at UT, Jenny's arrival suddenly made UT feel as natural as breathing. She had a profound impact on me, and our fast friendship slowly blossomed into something much, much deeper. I have so many memories from that period of our life together. A favorite is when Jenny and I were figuring out that we might be destined for each other. We'd been asked by a mutual friend to keep an eye on her apartment and feed her goldfish while she was out of town for a week. Taking our responsibilities extremely seriously and deeply concerned about the looming starvation of our friend's poor neglected goldfish, we wound up spending a lot of time together over the course of the next week, which proved to be the catalyst for the next phase of our relationship. I never did thank that goldfish for his essential part in our future. Thank you, sushi, wherever you are. Another favorite memory of that period leading up to our engagement. During the winter break of '98, I earned enough money to buy an engagement ring. I hid it in my desk because no one would ever find it there. Naturally, Jenny found it there. As the story goes, she was so excited that whenever I went out, she would grab the ring and wear it around, showing it to her friends, and then quickly hide it before I returned. I must admit to being disappointed by the underwhelming reaction I got when I showed the ring to one or two of my closer friends, but I guess it's understandable. They were bored with it. They'd been seeing it for months. Jenny and I had talked quite a bit about marriage, though we had never formally engaged, and she was supposedly unaware of my intent. Jenny, who as far as I can tell found that ring about 5 minutes after I had hit it, was excitedly expecting a proposal, and became famous for asking when over and over to our friends. One night, an impatient, slightly manipulative Jenny, eagerly trying to figure out my intended proposal plan, had picked a fight with me, claiming that I was not treating her as a priority. We had gone into the bathroom to argue, it being the only private place available, and I quickly got mad and stormed right back out with the full intent of grabbing the ring and proposing to her, pissed off in the bathroom. So no, we did not get married. We did not get engaged in the pooper. There was so much to Jenny. Jenny had an unquenchable thirst for new experiences, be they travel, or food, or music, or books. Notorious for the words, "I have an idea," and then the expensive and elaborate plan that would usually follow them, she loved to try new things. She was famous for the 3-month hobby, where she tried something new and love it for about 3 months, and then move on to something new. She tried her hand at horseback riding, gardening, crocheting, learning the piano, jewelry making, writing, photography, and on and on and on and on. A couple of years ago, she borrowed an e-bike from a friend just to see what it was like. An e-bike can provide power assist when pedaling, any strenuous exercise. It was a joyous find, and she absolutely loved it. For the first time in her life, she was able to participate in something active without being left behind. She set up frequent rides with friends, enjoying trips around Town Lake and Brushy Creek, and just exploring whenever the mood took her. Biking was something she and I also enjoyed doing together, and I already missed that she really took to was improvisation or improv. As a curiosity, she took classes on the subject. We would occasionally go to some of the professional performances here in town, but she also participated in a few performances on her own. About 3 or 4 years ago, she took me and a friend with her to a Valentine's Day themed open mic thing at one of the local bookstores here in Austin. Unbeknownst to us, Jenny had signed up to participate. When she got on stage, she ad-libbed her way through the retelling of when she had been the victim of one of the great pranks of all of time. This was done by her brother-in-law. Sorry, not really an appropriate story for now. But she then artfully blended this story into her experiences as a heart transplant survivor. She was masterful, and her charisma and charm and humor had the group of 30 or so people absolutely captivated. I was enthralled. She wound up winning the competition and getting a box full of goodies as a prize. It was amazing to witness. Ever curious about new people, Jenny loved travel and learning about new cultures and places. Though her situation limited travel opportunities, she got to experience time in France, in Italy, Hawaii, Mexico, and numerous less exotic destinations all over the US and Canada. Both of our families had summer homes in New York, hers in Skinny Atlas, ours in Montauk, which were favorite destinations. She was a huge Tori Amos fan and dreamed of following Tori's tours to every single destination. Jenny, who was completely tone deaf, knew every single word of every single song Tori had ever recorded. Believe me. She couldn't help but sing at the top of her lungs whenever listening to her, frequently to the detriment of those of us within earshot. In college, driving to Dallas for a visit home, listening to Tori Amos and belting out accompaniment, she passed a cop doing over 100 miles an hour and never even saw him. Apparently, the cop got such a good chuckle when writing up her ticket that he neglected to chastise her about the dangers of driving that fast. Jenny's public persona, the one that most people saw, was one of outgoing positivity and charm. This persona was partially a facade, deliberately chosen and carefully crafted after her experiences as a teenage cancer patient. Jenny was filled with rage at the hand she'd been dealt with health-wise. As a teen in chemo, so I have been told, her anger was unapologetically front and center. Her family would tell stories of my gentle wife being a difficult and spiteful patient, capable of shocking verbal abuse and even projectile vomiting on command at disliked members of her care team. The oncologist who treated Jenny as a teen later published a paper about her, documenting their challenges and outlining strategies for improving adolescent treatment. As she matured, Jenny made the choice to deviate from these experiences as a teen. She chose to be every nurse's favorite patient. Upon admission for an inpatient stay, she formed a habit of telling nurses that she was going to be their best patient ever. The conversation would frequently set the tone for her stay and keep her from being overwhelmed by the emotional roller coasters she would get on. She chose to have a sense of humor about being sick her entire life. Whenever Jenny wound up in the emergency room or hospital, the first thing we'd do is grab a selfie together, frequently doing something goofy like rolling eyes or sticking out tongues, or in my case, flipping off the camera. We have dozens of these photos that we'd sometimes look at together and just laugh. She chose to make the most of a bad situation. Most people who met Jenny, myself included, had difficulty sometimes in believing that someone as vibrant as that could really be that sick. Her favorite response, fake it until you make it. She chose to put anger aside. As someone who suffered from chronic anxiety her entire life, control of her environment was a huge factor in her emotional stability. Few things brought on her anger more than a lack of choice. So you can imagine how her health situation impacted. She was a fierce practitioner of the morally indignant letter, having sent scathing shame on yous to political entities, city management departments, big box retailers, airlines, hospitals, doctors, anyone who tried to skirt their implied responsibilities. She even started a group on social media with the singular aim of embarrassing our insurance carrier into shaping up their pharmaceutical services. That rage, though better managed over time, never really left her. Those emotions would occasionally boil over, and she could be terrifying and heartbreaking to behold. Through all of it, Jenny never let her anger really take her, and she created and maintained the most joyous personality that we've all loved. She chose. I have found the task of trying to put words to paper about Jenny very difficult, not just because of the pain and grief that I feel, or because of the challenge of not injecting too much of myself into what I've written. It's just that so little of her real essence comes through in the dry language of written hand. How can one use words to accurately describe the beauty of the colors of a rainbow? Jenny was alive. She was a person who lit up a room when she walked in. She glowed, radiating the essence of life like a living rainbow of color. People rarely saw a sick person when they looked at her. She was blessed with the gift of extroversion and lived to interact with people and enjoy new experiences. When engrossed in a particularly captivating conversation, Jenny had the habit of flashing her eyes open to the point where you could see the whites all the way around as she talked. She was little concerned by people's personal boundaries and frequently got into in-depth, deeply private conversations with complete strangers. As an off-the-chart introvert, I've always been fascinated with Jenny's ability to communicate with people. There was power in this ability. She touched people's lives wherever she went, and people were the better for having known her. Today, her tribe grieves at her loss and tries to celebrate the beauty of the life she led. I knew Jenny for 27 short years. Our time together provided me with endless joy and love, enough to last a lifetime. It will never be enough.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mara, for those of you who don't know. And so I will speak what I wrote. It's funny because Adam and I have a little bit of overlap. So today we're here to honor my twin sister, Jenny. She was a larger-than-life personality and could light up a room. She was a social butterfly and was energized after spending time with people. She loved to hear stories of others, and she was a great storyteller herself. Here are some of the moments and memories of her that I have. Jenny is the person that I knew the longest. When we were
were little, we shared a room, we slept in the same bed, and I would curl up next to her and hide under the sheets because I was afraid of the boogeyman. It was the only way I could fall asleep. She was my built-in best friend, my co-conspirator, my person that I shared everything with. I have so many memories of when we were little, sliding down staircases in sleeping bags, Girl Scouts and how she loved it and I hated it, swimming in the fountain for change, walking to and from school together, staying in Amish country because my parents didn't book a hotel, and road trips. Road trips with Jenny were always interesting, with never a dull moment, and this held true her whole life. Jenny was always social. Being a twin, we of course always had a shared birthday party when we were young, and she was so excited to have everybody come, and for me, it was pure torture having to entertain so many people. And boy, but she loved it. She loved it. And we had some epic birthday parties together. I would not have ever celebrated my birthday in this way if it were not for Jenny. Jenny knew how to throw a party, and she knew the value of celebrating life's occasions. Jenny was the many things about Jenny I will miss. She had so many beautiful gifts she gave to this world. I will miss her laughter, her kindness, how passionate she was in the things she believed in, her humor, how she was the event planner, how generous she was, how the right side of her mouth turned down just a little when she would talk. I'll miss the surprises she would leave behind at my house when she'd go back to Austin, like cases of seltzer water and dried seaweed paper she'd snack on. She is the only reason fish sauce exists in my house, and that is a testament to how much I loved her. She was the person who taught me to drive a stick shift, dragged me to my first pedicure, my first spa day, my first Broadway play, eyebrow threading, dear God, my first favorite concert, and chocolate cake or ginger pancakes at midnight at Kirby Lane, and invited me to come with her friends tubing down the river. She let me live with her when I moved to Austin and became a nurse. These are some of my big moments. You don't realize it in the moment, but it's also the small memories you make that are also the ones that stay with you. Playing cards and games, sitting outside together on a sunny day, listening to trees just sway in the breeze. Jenny putting Matthew to bed and reading to him, and washing bottles with her at the end of the night when he was young. Having her hang out with me while cooking dinner. My husband would joke and ask when Jenny was coming back to Dallas because it was the only time I ever cooked dinner, and he was tired of eating out. I loved having her around for everyday life. It would be hard to resume that everyday life, vacations or holidays without her. We had so many great times. Times we literally peed our pants laughing so hard together. And because of Jenny, there's videos of some of these moments. It is still hard to believe that she's really gone from this world, and I find myself wishing I could have more time with her. She knew she may not have many years left in this world. And one conversation we had was how sad she was that she wasn't going to be around to see Matthew grow up. I refuse to believe this. It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had, and even still can't bring myself to agree with her. Well, Jenny fought hard and battled so many health issues. One of the gifts I received from this was time with her. Having to come to Dallas for care so many times meant an opportunity to spend time with Adam and Jenny, and for my son to really get to know and love his aunt and uncle. This was my silver lining in the struggles that she endured. Jenny, I promise I will never let the batteries run out on the book you recorded for Matthew. I promise to get regular pedicures, even though I hate when they massage my feet. I promise to pass down the matching ring you made for me, along with its origin story. I promise to make sure to celebrate life victories like you would. I promise to try and take more pictures, a job you always did so well. And I promise to make sure Adam is taken care of and lives a happy life. The day that Jenny passed away, the sky was bright, but not sunny. It was like the world knew and the sun didn't dare to shine. The next day, fittingly, it was cold and rainy. It rained during her celebration of life. It rained today. It seems right that on these days it would rain, as if the world is crying because she left us. I know that she's in a better place. She's no longer in pain or suffering. What else can you say when this happens? It doesn't take away the immense sadness that is felt, the gaping hole her death leaves behind. Her death. That's a statement I still have a hard time saying. I still can't believe she's really gone. I hope that Jenny is having a great time, has gotten to see my mother, my G-Mum and Poppy, and all those that have passed before her. I hope she's able to have her own private Tori Amos concert, ride her bicycle up and down hills without feeling short of breath, is loving on her dog Madison, eating all the salty things she couldn't before, and doing all the things she wanted to do but never got a chance. I hope that she comes to visit and check in every now and then on us, even if we don't know she's there. Thank you all for your kind words and sharing stories of Jenny. She was loved by so many, and she touched so many people. It feels cliche and said so much, but time is the most precious gift we have to share with each other. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angie. Me and Jenny have been friends for over 20 years. So I'm going to read to you because this is way hard. Wow. Jenny Berliner was an amazing soul to everyone she met. She was my dearest friend for over 20 years, and I can't really remember my adult life without her. Jenny and I met at UT Gym while we watched our future husbands play handball. Jenny was such a social butterfly anywhere and everywhere we went. So when we'd be at the gym, she knew everybody by name, and everyone just went to her like she was a magnet. Everybody wanted their time with her. Adam and Daniel brought us together, and that in turn turned into this amazing 20-year friendship of amazing memories full of love and laughter. Jenny and I had this real long-running joke about how Adam and Daniel really were the couple, and Jenny and I were just like the ones on the side. Her ability to listen and empathize with whatever was going on made her wise beyond her years. She's the one I'd call when I needed advice on anything related to relationships and people. She was a teenager whisperer and could validate everything I was saying, making it feel like she was always on my side while offering perspective into how else I could handle things. In the last few weeks, I found myself asking, what would Jenny do or say in this situation? And I can imagine a look, a shoulder shrug, a sideways glance, or an eye roll to just tell me, get over that. I'll miss that. She loved my kids and treated them like family. And Adam and Jenny are part of ours. We're so lucky to have Adam and Jenny as Kai's godparents. And maybe not in the traditional sense, but Jenny was there for the kids whenever we needed. And the kids have some great memories of the time we spent together as they grew up. Olivia's very first party as a baby was at Adam and Jenny's house, protected in a sling, hanging out, listening to music. I asked Des what his favorite story was playing Scrabble, and Adam wrote down not a kid-appropriate word, and Jenny lost it. She was very not happy with that. But she did teach them, a lot of the 2-3-letter words, so it was really good. She had this insane talent of collecting people and putting them together. A week or two before she went into the hospital this last time, we had the most perfect day together hanging out on the lake. She brought together friends that may not have met on our own, but we will continue to be friends for a long time to come. Everyone knows about her medical madness, as she documented it all through her blog and social media. telling her story so that others knew that they were a day where she was somewhat awake, and the nurses hadn't seen her awake. And as they were giving her bath, she was giving them thumbs ups and shrugging her shoulders, and they were like, wow. And I was like, yeah, that's Jenny. Even then, we were laughing. Adam's story earlier about the meeting left out a key point that I think is kind of speaks volumes about Jenny. But when she met Jenny, when Jenny met Adam, she knew he was the one. She was determined. Even after her mom's warning, she was determined. And she was like that in life. Like when she put her mind to something, she was like, I'm going to do this. Even if it's for 3 months, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do it to like my fullest. She loved life. She was a force of nature and didn't let any of her health issues slow her down. She lived life to the fullest and brought me and my family love, joy, and laughter. So much laughter. My cheeks hurt after every time I hang out with her. I miss her so much already, but I find comfort in our many happy memories and that she's at peace and can rest. I love her very much, and I love you guys too.
Mary?
So I think there's a bit of a theme today. So I think a lot of overlap, Mara. But, before I do talk, I want to say thank you to Adam, to Mara, Bob, to Allison, Bob, and the rest of the family, for this opportunity. I'm truly privileged and honored and grateful for this time. I've been so lucky to call Jenny my friend for the past 30 years. She's the first one to befriend me when I moved to Texas, starting a brand new school, high school. And she and I even made plans to, attend UT together, after we graduated. And I remember her dad, Bob, he even flew us to Austin to tour the school during our senior year. And I think that's when Jenny fell in love, not only with the campus, but the city and everything it had to offer, including, eventually, her future husband, Adam. I, on the other hand, immediately started having second thoughts after watching a man proudly walking his invisible dog on a leash. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. So, needless to say, Jenny did end up attending UT, but, life had other plans for me, so I stayed in Dallas. But it didn't hinder our friendship. The distance couldn't keep us, from continuing to grow together. And over the past several weeks, not only have I been reflecting on my friendship with Jenny, but also her friendships and relationships with everyone in this room and with the others who haven't been able to join us today. And as I thought about our time together and the memories that she and I shared, as well as the memories and the stories shared by others, I took note of some of the words that were being used, to describe Jenny. They included hopeful, positive, strong, survivor, bubbly, inquisitive, tenacious, generous, compassionate, forgiving, and mentor. And I do consider Jenny one of my mentors. And I want to focus on that one for a moment. A mentor provides guidance, motivation, emotional support. A mentor is a good listener, a role model, is honest and non-judgmental. And that's what Jenny was. I didn't grow up with much, but I could have easily let my circumstances affect my future. And Jenny wouldn't have let that happen. She encouraged me, she motivated me not to be limited by those circumstances. She didn't judge me for what I didn't have. She was always there to listen to my frustrations when I couldn't hold them in. And most importantly, she was my role model. She was someone that I could look up to, someone I strived to be more like. And regardless of whatever health issue was thrown her way, she still lived her life. She still found joy and happiness through all the pain. My childhood circumstances were nothing compared to what she had to endure. I learned from Jenny that our circumstances should not and cannot define us, that we're in control of what we are given, that we're not in control of what we're given or not given in life. but we are in control of how we let what is given to us or not given to us affect our lives in the future. I believe Jenny is a mentor to everyone in this room and those that are watching as well. She used her life's journey, regardless of how painful it was, to help others. Her ability to share with what she was going through, how she conquered one battle after another, was amazing. That was her gift. That was her purpose in life. She found joy in helping others who were experiencing some of the same or similar difficulties that she unfortunately experienced in her lifetime. She found joy in comforting the loved ones and friends all around her, and those she didn't even know. She lived life. She accomplished so many things in her short time on earth, and I'm confident that she'll continue to guide us from above. I'll always be grateful to call Jenny my friend. All the memories, that we created together will forever be cherished. They'll always be remembered. And Jenny will forever live in my heart, and I know in your hearts too. I was blessed to be able to spend more time with Jenny in the last weeks of her life on earth, and it's more than typically what we would get together. I was blessed to be able to give back just a fragment of the love that she had shown me and given me throughout our friendship. I was blessed to hold her hand and to tell her that it's okay, that everything will be okay, that we'll be okay. She fought so many battles throughout her lifetime, and against all odds, she won most of them. Even this last time when she was admitted into the hospital, I immediately thought, she'll win this one too. It's just one more hurdle to overcome. And while I know the outcome was not what we wanted or even what we expected, in a way, I feel Jenny won that battle too, because she's no longer suffering. I'd like to challenge all of us in the room today to continue Jenny's journey, to continue her purpose, to use our life's experiences to help others, to mentor others, and to most importantly, to live life to the fullest. Don't waste time that we still have on earth to do more and to make Jenny proud. Thank you.
Thank everyone who spoke for those beautiful and true and stirring memories and words. There is a Jewish tradition that when you mention the name of someone that you love, that you've lost, if it's a woman, you say in Hebrew, Zichronah livracha, and that means may her memory be a blessing. As is abundantly clear from what's been shared, there isn't a person here who isn't blessed by memories of who Jennifer Berliner was and how she touched us, but paraphrasing what you just heard from Mary, our task is to draw upon our memories of what was most loyal and beautiful and strong and loving about her, and to be there for each other in her memory as a blessing, so that her memory really is a blessing to ourselves, each other, and to everyone around us, that we can draw upon what was most wonderful about her. So may that be so. May the memory of everything that was good and kind and loving and strong and uplifting about Jennifer Berliner be a lasting lifetime blessing to us and to all who depend upon us and all those whose lives we touch. And together we say, Amen. Early or late, we all must answer the summons to return to the source of being, for we lose our hold on life when our time has come, as a leaf falls from the bough when its day is done. The deeds of good people enrich us all, as a fallen leaf enriches the soil beneath. The dust returns to the earth. We are taught the spirit lives on with God. Like the stars at daytime, our beloved dead are not seen by our eyes, and yet they shine on forever. Let theirs be eternal peace. Let us be thankful for this companionship that continues in a love stronger than death, sanctifying the name of God, we honor Jennifer Berliner's memory. So we are about to bring our service to a close with the two main memorial prayers. One is called El Malei Rachamim, God full of compassion. Sarah will chant the Hebrew for us, and then we'll translate it into English, followed by the Mourner's Kaddish. And at this time, we invite those of you who are able and comfortable to please rise.
El Malei Rachamim Shachen Bamromim המציא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפך השכינה. אם קדושים וטהרים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת יקירנו שהלכה לעולמה. מעל הרחמים יסיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה. ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר amen.
Which means, compassionate one, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to the holy and the pure souls who shine like the heavenly lights, to Jennifer Berliner who has entered eternity. God of mercy, may she find refuge in your eternal presence, and may her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God, you are her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. We continue now with Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. It is a very ancient prayer. It's in Aramaic, and it doesn't say anything about death or grief or loss or sadness. It praises the Eternal One as the source of all that exists and looks forward to a time of peace for the world. And so I'm going to recite it together, and anyone who knows it is welcome to join along with me. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah bi'alma divarach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon ub'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'la'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudusha barichu La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who makes peace in the universe bring peace and wholeness to us, to all Israel, and to all who dwell on earth. And together we say, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are grieving here and everywhere. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Lech kishilachacha Adonai, go your way, for God has called you. Lech v'Adonai hiyeh imach.